careful about your next few moves. You never know who could be watching.
I need to know how exposed my family is. Me, Kane, you.
Now, one of the major clues I think we saw in the trailer for Season 3, and something I feel we should refer to before getting into the new teaser, were the cards that were used when they were cutting the product, a king and a queen. Now, over the course of the Power Off season, I made it a point of how Go Season 3 will be a chess game that's played across the board through multiple storylines and characters, and we all know the significance of a queen on a chessboard. It's the most powerful piece and the protector of a king. They're able to move across the board, whereas a king has to move one square at a time. Now, the same could be said when we talk about cards. The king and the queen are associated with power, royalty, and a hierarchy. If we were to look at this in terms of history, the significance of a king and a queen represents their social status, with both being the highest members of society. In some games, such as Hearts, the queen is the most powerful, whereas in poker, a king is more powerful. So I found it intriguing that these were the two playing cards that were specifically chosen for this scene. Was it a symbolization of how and why there's going to be a hierarchical battle between kings and queens across Season 3 of Ghost? So in the rest of this video, we're going to be dissecting the roles of Lorenzo and Monet, the king and the queen of the Tejada organization, and how both of them could fall in different ways, because after all, a king and a queen's reign has to end someday. So based on the latest teaser which shows Monet will be working closely with Davis Maclean, how much danger is Monet in, how much danger is Kane in, and how much danger is Lorenzo in, as well as Davis Maclean in Power Book 2 Ghost Season 3. When we were introduced to the Tejadas in Season 1, we were given some insight into how they'd been operating for 10 years. Despite Lorenzo being in jail, he was still making the decisions, although on the outside, Monet was the better placed position where she was able to see the whole chessboard, and what best position suited Kane, Drew, Diana, as well as Zeke. Although the positions that she had all four playing were far from what they wanted, and we saw that change for the worst in Season 2. Lorenzo being released from prison meant he took the seat at the head table as a king. He pulled Drew closer as his number 2, sent Diana to college, and tried to put Kane in his place, although he was the one who showed his most resistance, along with Monet. Hence we saw this partnership form between Kane and Monet behind Lorenzo's back, something we're going to continue to see based on the teasers for Season 3. But Monet did still have her exit plan in play, Zeke Cross, but as her secret started to unravel, so did her exit plan. After Diana blew up the secrets of Zeke being Monet's firstborn, Monet was desperate to keep Zeke dependent only on her. Throughout Seasons 1 and 2, you would have realized how Monet was making the decisions for her kids, none more so than Zeke, but there was a good reason. When the secret was revealed, Zeke decided he wanted to go his separate way. He hired his own agent, but from then on, everything started to go horribly wrong.
I'm gonna be about my business now on my own, you know what I mean? Do what I want to do, not what everybody tell me, even Auntie Monet.
I feel you. I feel that.
Yeah.
Zeke making his own decisions didn't exactly go to script, and it shows why Monet had to make the decisions for him. Now, in a desperate attempt to keep Zeke close, Monet made a huge decision, and one which could ultimately backfire in Season 3, killing Carrie. Monet wanted to close every single avenue possible to keep Zeke close, and so she killed Professor Carrie Milgram, making it look like a suicide. Ironic, because in the following episode was where we saw Effie do the same with Lauren to keep Tariq St Patrick close. Now, Zeke didn't buy the fact Carrie would have killed herself, and he questioned Detective Whitman whether her death was actually a suicide, and he said the case was closed, although if he had any more information, they had an open door policy. So after Zeke approached Detective Whitman questioning whether it was a suicide, that made him investigate further, and then he stumbled across some evidence and brought Zeke back into the office.
That was taken from a traffic cam the night of Carrie's suicide. That fits within the coroner's window of time of death.
Monet was caught in a near traffic cam, and this is something that could prove pivotal in law enforcement's investigation into the Tejadas as well as Tariq St Patrick in Season 3, especially because Jenny Sullivan didn't buy the fact it was a suicide. Jenny Sullivan felt guilty not just for Lauren's death, but also Carrie's. She called her death too much of a coincidence, and so I do think it's worth rewinding it back to one of my own investigations during the Power Off season. this was based on evidence, facts, and findings, and so the elements I think is worth focusing on based on the trailer, as well as the latest teaser between Monet and Davis Maclean, is suspicious Detective Whitman and Jenny Sullivan, Kane's rap sheet, who shot Mecca, and Davis Maclean's role in protecting Monet and Tariq St Patrick. Now, after the failure of nailing Tariq St Patrick for the death of Officer Ramirez and Jabari, attention seems like they're going to turn to Tariq St Patrick after he caught the eye of Blanca Rodriguez. So this is what Courtney Kemp said post season 2. She is definitely going to try and get Tariq, and as our law enforcement ranks shrink in the show, it's always interesting to have characters that the audience have a long history with. The audience is going to have a very strong opinion about what Blanca Rodriguez decides to do in season 3 and how she plans to attack Tariq. Tariq is a part of the cover-up of the murder of Mecca, but he's not necessarily guilty of that murder. So this is going to be a really interesting move because she's pursuing him for something he's really not guilty of. So Tariq St Patrick will always be in trouble, as he always will be, but it's when they start to dig deeper and find Monet's images along with the images that they already have of her near Carrie's apartment, I think attentions could soon turn to Monet Tejada. After all, they're teasing Monet and Davis to be in the thick of the action together, and she wants to know how exposed she is, as well as Kane and Davis himself. Another element we do need to keep an eye on is a murder weapon, and was this the same gun that was taken from Tariq St Patrick by Diana in season 1? Although this was a theory that was debunked by Courtney Kemp in a live Q&A. So regardless of whether it was the same gun or not, I'm sure Monet knows not to keep the murder weapon around. But it definitely is something to bear in mind, because we saw how Kane kept Officer Ramirez's badge as a failsafe, plant the evidence on someone else, and let them take the rap. So the murder weapon is also something to bear in mind. Now as we transition into season 3, the aftermath of Zeke's death is going to be heartbreaking for Monet. We see her being given Zeke Cross's basketball jersey in his memorial, and understandably she looks distraught. So Monet is going to definitely be after blood. Now in the latest teaser she mentions that someone killed her son and nobody's going to rest until they find out who. And the man who seems like to be at the center of protecting the Tejadas and finding out who was behind Zeke's death is Davis Maclean. But he'll warn Monet, be careful about your next few moves, you never know who could be watching. And it's very reminiscent to when he warned Tariq St Patrick in season 2.
The NYPD will have a target on your head. Trust no one.
Monet also wants to know how exposed her family is, Monet, Kane, as well as Davis himself. Now the reason why Monet and Kane are exposed is because both of them are on the radar of law enforcement. Kevin Whitman has the traffic cam images of Monet near Carrie's apartment, and he was also up to further tricks when he came to Kane's rap sheet. Kamal Tate told Whitman, don't show this to Jenny, not yet, but what did he go and do? He gave her Kane's rap sheet, the same character who was caught up on Lauren's wire, another death that may seem like too much of a coincidence, but it depends how well Effie planned her death, which is something we are going to see. But this is why Monet wants every single document he has on her, and I can only assume she's talking about Detective Whitman, and when she puts money in front of Davis's face, they're talking the same language. But law enforcement and the DEA's presence is going to be heavy in season 3. They're going to be building a big case into the entire drug empire, and they're also going to be raiding the Tejada household. What evidence they have is yet to be seen, but Carrie and Lauren's death may play a pivotal role in their investigation, and who knows, Effie could as well. So both Monet and Kane are in big trouble, and that's why they'll need Davis, but he's also exposed himself. Now Davis brought Sachs to the firm with the sole purpose of helping him free his brother Theo, but Cooper Sachs has struggled to defend these criminals instead of putting them behind bars, and the death of Carrie along with Lauren was the tipping point. He definitely feels they've got blood on their hands, and so he made a promise to Jenny that he'll do what he can to help build their case. Now this is why Davis is exposed, so it may be in Davis's best interest to help Monet and the Tejadas. Now one person who will be trying to cover his tracks and stop himself from being exposed is Lorenzo Tejada.
You need to get out of my house and get out of New York.
Hands on the table.
Lorenzo is a character who I believe will be very nervous in season 3, and he's going to do whatever he can to cover his tracks. So bringing it full circle to the beginning of the video, every king's reign has to end someday, and it does seem like Lorenzo's time has come. Whether he's killed off or whether he leaves New York, in the words of Monet, she is now in charge. But again, I think you'll find every single one of these characters exposed in their own way. Now when this shit kicks off with Lorenzo, I don't think this is going to go down well with Diana, because she is daddy's girl after all. It's you that killed everything good in this family, which really are some strong words from Diana, but I'd really be careful if I were her. Although Diana isn't solely to blame for the split and divide with the Tejadas, she's played a big part because of her inability to follow instructions, as well as keeping secrets. For example, when she was told not to look into Mecca's bag. So where we see Monet trying to protect Kane, and Kane potentially siding with Monet, we know Diana will most likely side with Lorenzo, but where does that leave Drew? So that's a breakdown of why Monet and Kane will be exposed in season 3, along with Davis Maclean and Lorenzo Tejada. So how's it gonna end for them? Especially with the DEA's presence, Davis under pressure, and the King and the Queen being exposed in their own ways. Drop all your thoughts and perspectives down below in the comment section, and let me know how you see this partnership playing out between Monet and Davis, and who do you think could go down? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.